We've been given a reprieve, it seems, by the organizers, because I was told to cut it short and the resolutions had to be, because I think this is a huge opportunity to ask questions of this incredibly courageous and well-informed panel. So please identify yourself and please let us know who the question is addressed to. The floor is open. Thank you. So, what's the question?
जो वुमेन राइट्स एक्टिविस्ट है या की सियासी लोग हैं वो इस मुदाखलत की मतलब मजम्मत करती है या इस पे पेशमानी करती है या नहीं?
बताइए, ये आपके लिए है।
देखिए, ठीक है माइक। मैंने तो शुरू में बात की कि एक पुरअमन अफ़गानिस्तान के बग़ैर पुरअमन पाकिस्तान और पुरअमन पाकिस्तान के बग़ैर पुरअमन अफ़गानिस्तान जो है ये मुमकिन ही नहीं है। हम सिर्फ कंडेम नहीं करते, हम तो इस पे बात भी करते और हमें उसकी जो सज़ा है वो भी मिलती है। आपको पता है कि वो पॉलिटिकल पार्टी जो कि बात करती है अफ़गानिस्तान के हवाले से, जो कि कंडेम करती है जो रीसेंट सूरत हाल है, वो पॉलिटिकल पार्टी जिन्होंने कंडेम किया, जिन्होंने बहुत स्ट्रॉन्गली कंडेम किया, तो वो आपको पता है कि सबसे ज़्यादा कुर्बानी की हम बात करते हैं तो वही लोग जो है वो फ्रंट लाइन पे होते हैं। तो ज़ाहिर बात है, मैं आई बिलोंग टू अवामी नेशनल पार्टी और आपको पता है कि अवामी नेशनल पार्टी का बहुत क्लियर स्टांस है और यही वजह है कि हम कहते हैं कि अगर हम यहाँ पे अमन चाहते हैं और यहाँ पे अपने बच्चों की मुस्तकबिल चाहते हैं तो फिर उस मुल्क में जो कि हमारी नेबरिंग कंट्री है, जो कि सबसे ज़्यादा सफ़र पिछले 40 साल से हो रहे हैं, तो ये सिर्फ कंडेम की बात नहीं बल्कि हम तो हर फोरम पे इस पे बात भी करते हैं और हम बार बार पाकिस्तान की हुकूमत है, अफ़गानिस्तान की, हम यही बात करते हैं कि जब तक आप ये जहन में नहीं रखेंगे कि हमारे मुल्क में जो कुछ भी है या अफ़गानिस्तान में जो कुछ भी, इनका हल मुज़ाकरात ही है, लेकिन मुज़ाकरात तभी है जब हम एक दूसरे की ममालिक में इंटरफेरेंस ना करें, अपने लिमिट्स को क्रॉस ना करें। अगर पाकिस्तान अफ़गानिस्तान में और अफ़गानिस्तान पाकिस्तान में इंटरफेरेंस करेगा और गुड तालिब और बैड तालिब का जो कंसेप्ट है, जब तक ये तालिब तालिब है, अगर वो पाकिस्तान में है वो बैड है, अगर वो अफ़गानिस्तान में, ये गुड बैड का कंसेप्ट जो है ये ख़त्म करना होगा।
Thank you. But I actually want you to comment on this. You were a deputy minister in the previous government. What do you think Pakistani political parties should be doing?
Well, thank you.
And then after that, to Mehbooba, who had raised this issue as well.
Thank you, Chairwoman, for the opportunity. I feel so much burdened to be the only male in this panel with a very strong voice talking today, especially considering the fact that most of the problem in Afghanistan is the man-made problem. And sadly, on the other hand, the woman has been the primary victims of the conflict in the past 20 years. They have lost their socioeconomic, they have lost their family members. They have lost in both sides their family members and beloved. Specifically to your question, I think it's important to show solidarity. Solidarity is important and amplify the voices not in Kabul, Islamabad, but in whole the region. Because the Taliban and Talibanism is presenting a new political culture that's shrinking democratic environment for all of us. It would definitely squeeze the public institution and public participations of the woman in every aspects of the society, and in the meantime it entrenched the violent political culture within the society, within our societies, which is mainly dominated by a patriotical dominated culture in Afghanistan and Pakistan, and part of the Pakistan, if I may say. Despite I am not an expert, but I think it's important to recognize these threats and in the meantime develop shared resilient mechanism in Afghanistan and in Pakistan and beyond. To be very honest, I'm so honored to see these four faces today. If you allow me 2 minutes that I will talk about them and take the permission from them. Sima Samar herself was the first vice president of Afghanistan during the transition of 2001. She is a prominent part of the story of women rights and human rights in Afghanistan, later on in Human Rights Commission of Afghanistan too. Mahbouba Siraj and Durrani has proven us wrong when it comes to two facts in Afghanistan, madam. Firstly, most of us escaped from Afghanistan while both Mahbouba Siraj and Durrani had every chance, and they have every chance to leave the country, while they stayed in the country and they are standing and they are raising their voices against the gun. And it's not easy. I would like to request all of you to put your hands together for the bravery of the people like Mahbouba and Durrani and those other girls in Kabul that they are chanting for their freedoms and rights every day. Last but not the least, Shahrzad is a representative of New Afghanistan in every platform that we are seeing here today. This is also part of the reality in Afghanistan that needs to be recognized in Afghanistan and beyond. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Thank you, and you know how honored we are that they are with us today. As I said, you know, my good friend and mentor, Asma Jahangir, would have been so happy to hear these voices of these courageous women. Mehbooba, I want to go back to you, if I may. Can you please tell us, in practical terms, what human rights defenders can do to at least make sure that we can provide some support to the women and girls who are living in Afghanistan today?
That is something that you cannot, it's not a job, it's not something that one does sometimes and then one doesn't. It's not like that. The human rights defenders should keep an eye and ear open and be aware of what is going on in Afghanistan. It's very, very important, all the time. I'm not talking about the propaganda news. I'm not talking about the things that are wrong. I'm not talking about the things that come out, as lies, because as you all know, if you don't, I want to tell you that Afghanistan right now is becoming like a, how shall I say, this place that so many hands, so many people, so many so many things are involved. They're just involved. They're making things happen for the good and for the bad, by the way. They're not all for the good. So the human rights defenders in the world should be always aware of what's going on in Afghanistan. Because the most important thing is that in case, if something really goes south, as the saying goes, then when the human rights defenders are there, then they will know something has happened and they have to do something about it. I also, at the same time, that's why I have been asking the leaders of the countries of the world, have your presence in Kabul, and especially the capital. Be present in the capital. You don't have to have your embassies. I don't care what you want to do politically. But be there just in the form of maybe a consulate, but be there. Have your feet on the ground, have your ears and have your eyes open, and be there. That is very important. People just right now, leaving Afghanistan and going off on whatever reason that they are doing that, this is wrong. This should not continue. And this has nothing to do with the fact that whether they want to accept this government or not. And the same thing I want to say for the human rights defenders. Please listen to us. Please hear us. Please get in touch with some of us that do see the situation for what it is and don't like to do, they're not drama queens and they don't want to, or kings or whatever, and they want to make dramas all the time, but will tell you the facts of what is going on and what is going on the ground. So that way you will know if there's in case any problem or something, then you can get your hands. And also, if there are anyone that can help. You see, Afghanistan lost a lot of people You know, a lot of people left this country. Some of those people that left this country, you know, they had a reason for it. They shouldn't have been here because their lives were in danger. But a whole lot of people left this country for no reason. I don't think even some of them knows why they left it. But anyways. But then again, there are some women, some families in this country still, that they kind of fell through the crack and they're still here and they're in danger. So this is also something that I want the human rights defenders to have their ears and their eyes open. So if we do get in touch with you and we say, this one is really in bad shape, has to get out, help them. As much as it hurts me, as much as it breaks my heart, honestly, and I cannot tell you how much, because I cannot tell you how much I miss them. Dear God, if I could have some of these women with me right now, I cannot tell you the things that I could be doing with them. I will not stay on this line. We will do things very different. I am like, my heart's broken. I don't want to lose everybody, but I'm losing everybody. And one day I'm going to be all alone here. And I just want these women to know that, please, anytime you get a chance and you think you can come back to Afghanistan, please come back. This country will always need you. Please come back. But right now, we are losing them all. And we lost a whole lot. But still, it's the same person, me, that knows how sad I am for losing everybody. I'm asking, you know, the human rights defenders that if there are other people that I like maybe even I come to you and say, you know, please get these people out. Somebody help me. And also, you know, also keep your eyes and ears open. So you know what is going on in Afghanistan, the reality of what is going on. Because a lot of things are going on, a lot of hands are playing in this country, a lot of people are involved, everybody's doing it for their own benefit. And they're not really thinking about the people of this country at all, about the men and women who are suffering, and they've been suffering for so long. There's not even, I can't even tell you how long, but they are. But this is what is going on in Afghanistan, and things can get a lot worse if we don't pay attention, and if we don't really find out exactly what is going on and what is good for everybody. And really make it happen, whatever it is, make it happen. So there's going to be some kind of a you know, cooperation and peace in this area. If Afghanistan is in trouble, I don't know why it is like this. I cannot tell you why it is like this. But this little country is really the heart of Asia. It really is, and it's not just a saying. This is how it is. Asia beats the heart of Asia. Beats, and that's how this whole of these countries are alive and well. Afghanistan going down the drain because of something, anything, is not good for anybody. It's not good for Iran. It's not good for Pakistan. Definitely not good for Pakistan. Definitely not good for Iran, especially those are the Islamic countries. I mean, maybe China couldn't care less, because China is a huge country. They are dealing with the world in a completely different point of view. And the same thing with Russia. They are dealing with the world differently. For them, we don't count. For them, who counts is somebody else. But then all of the rest of these countries, all of the countries like Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and all of those, they shouldn't get involved in the internal policies of Afghanistan. I'm really begging everybody, don't do that. Because if something happens, if a civil war breaks in this land now, I can tell you that the effect of it is not going to end at the borders of Afghanistan. I can promise you that. So please, for whatever it's worth, don't let anybody do that, and don't get into that. Let us live. Let us find our way. We will find our way. But help us if you want to help. Otherwise, just stay there and watch us. And whoever in your country that wants to get involved, as far as the human rights are concerned, as far as the humanitarian help is concerned, as far as the things that as a human beings we are so good at having, and we really are having it in the right way. culturally, Pakistanis and Afghans are so close. I mean, we have tons of people, we have families that they've gotten married with each other and across the border and all of that. And the only times that I've gone to Pakistan has been for weddings, believe it or not. And please, let's not do that. This is dangerous. This is becoming a very, very dangerous spot for the world, truly.
Mehbooba, I don't think, and you shouldn't believe for a minute that you're alone. I think we are there, we understand your pain, and we are with you every step of the way. So, your courage and your commitment to your country, we honor it. And indeed, as Abdullah said, these are the faces of Afghanistan. The new Afghanistan. It's not the old Afghanistan. There's no going back to the old Afghanistan. Not for a minute. I don't think so. If there are any more questions from the audience, I don't want to. Please.
Is there a question for me?
अस्सलाम वालेकुम उड़ान गालोनी नॉर्दर्न पश्तूनख्वा बलूचिस्तान से मैम समीना क्वेश्चन आपसे है क्योंकि आपके साथ जो स्पीकर है और जो ऑनलाइन स्पीकर है और इंक्लूडिंग मी हम सब विक्टिम हैं क्योंकि तालिबानाइजेशन का जो कंसेप्ट या जो भी आइडियालॉजी है जो भी इसका इम्पेक्ट है वो हमारी पश्तून बेल्ट पे हुआ है जो अफ़गान और यहाँ के जो हमारा जो पश्तून बेल्ट है यहाँ पे क्वेश्चन आपसे ये है कि मतलब 9/11 से अगर हम बात छोटी कर ले तो 9/11 के बाद जो तालिबानाइजेशन का जो इम्पेक्ट है हमारे एरिया पर पश्तून बेल्ट पर यहाँ पे बहुत सारे केसेस हुए हैं बल्कि हो रहे हैं अभी इन दोनों बहनों ने बताया शगुफ्ता बीबी ने और फरजाना ने बाकी जो ऑनलाइन स्पीकर्स थे उन्होंने बहुत सारी सिचुएशन जो है बहुत सारे केसेस राइज किए हैं अगर हम बात करें यहाँ पे ह्यूमन राइट्स जो वुमेन राइट्स है या ह्यूमन राइट्स है जो यहाँ पे काम कर रहे हैं आई रियली वांट टू नो और ये मेरा इन ह्यूमन राइट्स जितनी भी तंजीमें हैं मेरा इनसे क्वेश्चन है आपसे क्वेश्चन है कि हम पे जो ये सारा 9/11 के बाद जो भी गुजरा मिसिंग पर्सन हुए बेवाएँ हुई शहीद हुए बल्कि कत्ल किए गए बहुत सारे लोग और इस तरह की केसेस अगर मैं मिसाल दूं खैसोर में जो वज़ीरिस्तान का इलाका है वहाँ की हयात कीमा का जो मैं मिसाल दूं जो वहाँ पे आई नो यू हैव टू नो अबाउट हयात कीमा जो थी और उसके बाद अगर हम मोमंद एजेंसी में जो मलाला थी वी कॉल इट मलाला मेवंदवाला के नाम से हम उसे पुकारते आई डोंट नो हर रियल नेम बट वहाँ पे जो उसके घर पे एक FC या फौजी की तरफ से जो हमला हुआ फिर उसकी ज़िंदगी थ्रेट्स में है शायद आज भी वो अंडर थ्रेट है लेकिन मैं ये ह्यूमन राइट के हवाले से जी ये जो ह्यूमन राइट्स जितनी भी तंजीमें हैं मेरा इनसे ये सवाल है कि 9/11 के बाद इन लोगों की क्या प्रोग्रेस है हमारे बेल्ट में जो भी तबाही हुई वुमेन के हिसाब से या मैन के हिसाब से जो भी हमारे मिसिंग पर्सन हुए जो भी हुए इन लोगों के रिपोर्ट में क्या है इन लोगों ने हमारे लिए कौन से स्टेप लिए या सिर्फ ये नाम की ह्यूमन राइट्स है या सिर्फ ये एक सेमिनार करके हमें चलता कर देते हैं कि आप लोग चले जाओ हमें रिपोर्ट या मतलब कोई ऐसा रीज़न या कोई एक सबूत दे दे कि ये ह्यूमन राइट्स के मतलब जितनी भी तंजीमें हैं उन्होंने ये काम अमली तौर पर किया है हम जानना चाहते हैं थैंक यू
बिल्कुल I can't speak on behalf of the organizations you're talking about, but just one organization, Human Rights Commission of Pakistan, has published extensive investigative reports. पहला कदम होता है knowledge, कि आप information provide करें, consciousness raise करें. ये इन्होंने बात की फरजाना ने और सीमा ने भी mindset के बारे में. जब आप इन्फॉर्मेशन ही नहीं प्रोवाइड करेंगे तो क्या पता चलेगा कि क्या हो रहा है किस जगह पे और किस किस्म की वायलेशंस हो रही हैं. सो आई थिंक दैट्स द फर्स्ट स्टेप. the state ultimately has the responsibility. There's no doubt about it, which indeed is the case of both Afghanistan and Pakistan right now. It's civil society organizations can provide support and pressure the state or raise consciousness. But ultimately, the responsibility then becomes that of pressuring the state enough that it takes action. And, we completely, this is the question, by the way, I always get in Balochistan. आप लोग रिपोर्ट लिख के चले जाते हैं घर, और फिर क्या होता है? But Seema, please.
Yes. Thank you very much. I think because I was the chairperson of the Afghanistan Independent Human Rights Commission for so long, for 17 years, you can look at our reports. Hopefully it's still on the website. I did not check. There are a lot of good reports on human rights. We did a lot of very exceptional work in Afghanistan in relation to justice, in relation to accountability, in relation to women's rights, in relation to civilian casualties, in relation of violation of the people's rights, access to education, to health, to all the socioeconomic and cultural rights of the people. So there are, and we did a lot of educational program for human rights. That's why I keep saying that, yes, the Taliban, although I'm the one who started the Ministry of Women's Affairs and I'm the one who started the Human Rights Commission, and unfortunately, both of them are abolished by Taliban. You can imagine that the Ministry of Women's Affairs is changed to be the Vice and Virtue Ministry. That itself shows that Vice and Virtue is only for women. So again, I go back on my first comment that how they look and see two women and how they objectivize women on the different issues, including the security. Because of using the insecurity in Afghanistan, all the male members of the family, including our own families, they try to keep us away and confine it at the four wall of our houses in order to protect us. So the whole protection and human security is another question. So the reports on all of those issues are there and it's done. The good point that I would like to say, or the hope for the future, is that yes, the Taliban can close down the Ministry of Women's Affairs and the Taliban can close down the Human Rights Commission and take all of the documentation. I don't know where they are. But they cannot take the knowledge from the mind of the youth in the country in relation to their rights. And that is, we see the sign with women or on the street, or women coming not only on the street, but even if they go to educational system, to the school, to the university, to the market to buy bread, that is part of their knowledge about their rights. So nobody can take it from them. So that is what the Human Rights Commission, at least in Afghanistan, has done. And I know the Human Rights Commission of Pakistan, we work with your chairperson and some of the member of the Human Rights Commission of Pakistan started quite late compared to us. But if you look at the work of the human rights defenders in the country, it will continue. I mean, okay, maybe the first generation, as I would say, maybe us, or we are not in the country, but it doesn't mean that we cannot continue. New leaders would come up, new human rights defenders would come up, and they will continue and take the torch. But what I would like to suggest here is that brothers and sisters in Pakistan, I lived in Pakistan 17 years myself. Don't forget that we cannot change, we cannot choose our neighbors. It's too late to choose our neighbor and we cannot do it anyway. But we can live with peace, we can live with respect to each other, we can live and support each other, because as I said, that we like it or not,
The problem in Afghanistan will not stay in Afghanistan. The problem in Pakistan will not stay in Pakistan. We learn a lot of negative things and positive things from Pakistan. And that is the truth. That is the fact. And by denying the fact, we cannot change the reality in the ground. So let's be honest. Let's join our hands and promote human rights and democracy in our respective country, and let the people of Afghanistan to live with dignity. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Sherazad,
Thank you.
if we could have one last word from your successor, Seema, the young Afghanistan chairperson of the Afghanistan Human Rights Commission, who is now speaking on behalf of all women and girls and rights defenders as well. Is Sherazad still online, please? Oh, she's gone. She was there a minute ago.
Gone.
What a pity. Well, anyways, all I can say is that unless there's any more questions from the audience, is one more. Is it the same gentleman? Yeah, but if you could make it very short.
I can, if
going to be
the
the same
question is
question,
related
then no.
to me, I have not heard your question.
Yeah, well,
Sorry.
let's just hear. It's the same guy.
मैं माजरत
There's
चाहता
another
हूँ
sir, sorry, there's another hand over there. And you
मैं
asked
सिर्फ
a
एक
question
मिनट
earlier
में
on.
सिर्फ
हाँ, और फिर इनको करने दें।
मेरा एक सवाल भी है मैं स्वात का रहने वाला हूँ
जी।
मैम एक तो जो आप वुमेन राइट्स की बात हो रही है ऑपरेशन के दौरान जो ऑपरेशन हुआ स्वात में उस दौरान स्वात में दर्जनों औरतें जो है वो लापता हुए हैं और ये वाक़यात हम रिपोर्ट कर चुके हैं वहाँ की जो ह्यूमन राइट्स एक्टिविस्ट है ख़ासकर गुलाले इस्माइल को और इनके साथियों को मगर अब तक जो पाकिस्तान वुमेन राइट्स और ह्यूमन राइट्स कमीशन है उस पे उनका कोई स्टांस नहीं है और दूसरी बात यह है कि स्वात में जो ऑपरेशन के बाद पाकिस्तानी फौज जो है वहाँ के गर्ल्स एजुकेशन इंस्टीट्यूट्स में काबिज है और अब तक उनको तालीमी मकासद के लिए वो इस्तेमाल नहीं कर रहे और वहाँ पे काबिज है आप काइंडली अगर इस पे बात करें तो
Thank you very much. They're both important issues that you've raised.
Thank you so much, ma'am. One of the major concerns for the Christian and Hindu communities of Pakistan is the forced conversions of their underage girls. So I would like to ask our panelists about the impact of Talibanization on the minority women of Pakistan. Thank you.
Would you want to answer that?
बिल्कुल ये जो सवात की बात की गई है पहले मैं इसकी बात करूँगी मैं ख़ुद कई फैमिली से मिली जिनकी बच्चियाँ जो थे वो मिसिंग थी हमने उनके ऊपर स्टोरीज़ भी की आपने यकीनन देखा होगा लेकिन बदकिस्मती से चीज़ों को जिस तरह तरोड़ मरोड़ के फिर हमें जवाब दिए गए उन पर बात करते हुए भी इंसान को थोड़ी सी शर्म आती है आपको भी पता है कि उन बच्चियों के साथ क्या हुआ और हमें भी पता है कि उन बच्चियों के साथ क्या हुआ और उनको कौन ले गया ये एक बड़ी तल्ख हकीकतें हैं जिनको कम से कम रियासत मानने के लिए फ़िलहाल तैयार नहीं है हमने एज ए जर्नलिस्ट अपना काम किया उन स्टोरीज़ को जितना हम रिपोर्ट कर सकते थे हमने किया दूसरी आपकी बात है स्कूल्स के हवाले से बिल्कुल सिर्फ सवात में नहीं दीर में वज़ीरिस्तान में बहुत सारे स्कूल अभी भी ऐसे हैं जो कि रीबिल्ट नहीं हुए बाड़ा में ऑपरेशन ख़त्म हुए काफ़ी अरसा हो गया मैंने बाड़ा में बहुत ज़्यादा काम किया है जाके उन कैंप्स में कई बार जाके प्रोग्राम्स किए हैं कि खुदा के लिए इनको स्कूल बना दें वो सर्दियाँ गर्मियाँ उन्हीं खैमों में बैठे हुए हैं अभी भी बैठे हुए हैं लेकिन बजट के मसाइल अगर 290 स्कूल तबाह हुए थे तो 95 एक को दे दिए गए बाकी सूबाई हुकूमत को दे दिए गए अब कोई पूछने वाला नहीं है, और वही होता है कि बजट नहीं है। और आपको पता है कि रिहेबिलिटेशन का जो प्रोसेस है और फिर अभी मार्ज एरिया में जो मामलात हो रहे हैं उसमें पैसे नहीं दे रहे, तो बहुत सारी चीज़ें अभी पेंडिंग है। इनकी जो बात है, मैंने सिख कम्युनिटी पे खैबर में काम किया है। तालिबानाइजेशन के दौरान उनके साथ जो कुछ हुआ, वो फिर आ गए पेशावर में, कुछ हसन अब्दाल चली गई थी फैमिलियाँ, और बदकिस्मती से अभी वो फैमिलियाँ दोबारा नहीं जा सकी हैं खैबर में, क्योंकि वो तीरा में रहते थे जो लोग, वो तो बिल्कुल भी नहीं जा सकते अभी। और उसकी वजह यही है कि उनके घर डिमोलिश किए गए थे, उनके ऊपर रियासती इदारों ने कब्ज़े कर लिए, तो वो उनके पास जगह ही नहीं है, वो वहाँ कहाँ जाएंगे। और फिर आपने देखा कि री एमर्जेंस ऑफ टीटीपी के बाद लोग फिर से डर गए हैं। वो जो एक थोड़ा थोड़ा एतमाद बहाल हो रहा था, वो फिर से मेरे ख़्याल में अब सवालिया निशान उसके ऊपर लग गया है। तो फैमिलीज़ अभी भी हसन अब्दाल और पेशावर में हैं, वो नहीं जा रही। तो जाहिर है आप सोच सकते हैं कि जहाँ मर्दों को कत्ल कर दिया जाता है, सिख कम्युनिटी के आपने देखे होंगे कई केसेस सामने आए, या अहमदियों के आपने देखा होगा पेशावर में बहुत केसेस सामने आए हैं। तो उसमें ख़वातीन की जो हालत है वो बस ऐसे ही है कि थोड़ा बहुत जो पढ़ लेती हैं पेशावर में वही है, बाकी ऐसे ही उनकी ज़िंदगी भी बस ऐसे ही है जैसे होती है। शुक्रिया।
Thank you so much. Any more questions on the floor?
Assalamu alaikum, ma'am. Ma'am, I would like to ask one question that what steps should take the government to improve the mindset that has been followed by since decades patriarchal impact of Talibanization into the women's civilizations and in Afghanistan and Pakistan too. So would you like to tell me the...
I'll
Yes, ma'am.
pose this question to Seema
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
first. Okay. Yeah. On how do you change the mindset?
I think if you want to change the mindset of the people in a country, we need to change improve the quality of education, number one. And that is really important. The reason I'm insisting on the education is that if we teach our children from young age, from the age of 5 or 6 years, we can promote equality, we can promote respect for women and equal rights for everyone, regardless of their language, regardless of their religion, regardless of their ethnicity. That will change, that will give you, or bring up a new generation who believes on these basic rights. One of the fights that we had with our Ministry of Education was that I was saying that without really using the word human rights, we can change the curriculum in the school. For example, I was saying that we can write and say that every human being has the right to clean water. Every human being has the right to have a shelter. Every human being has the right to quality education. So these are the things that we can promote equality. When we say every human being, we don't say it's a boy or girl, we don't say it's Pashtun or Hazara, we don't say it's Tajik and Uzbek, and we don't say it's woman and man. So it is, we promote the human dignity. And that way we can change, of course, the mindset of the people. By the way, if you look at the, unfortunately, on the madrasa system, which was built for Afghan refugees and also for your children in Pakistan long ago in 80s, how much they really know the real Islam. Why they hate their family? Because they were confined within those boarding schools, and they are still, and they come up that think that women are dirty. And why, if the women are dirty, how you are clean? You're born of woman, you're born of her blood, you were fed by her blood. So why would you? How can you be clean and the women are not clean? Why always women are the problem makers? So these kind of issues can be changed through a good quality education. And that, I think we all has to has to work towards that, to achieve that, rather than using their culture or religion in order to control half of the population and in order to dehumanize half of the population.
Thank you very much. Do
Thank you.
agree? That's a fantastic way to put it. Do you think that education is the tool if we are going to change that mindset?
बिल्कुल जी देखिए एजुकेशन की जब हम बात करते हैं हम सिलेबस की इन्होंने बात की मैं बहुत 100% मैं एग्री हूँ कि जब हम सिलेबस की बात करते हैं हम जब छोटे होते थे और हम जब देखते थे स्कूलों में किताबों में पढ़ते थे कि जी जमील स्कूल जा रहा है जमीला घर की सफाई कर रही है ये हमने किताबों में अगर आपकी किताबों में ये चीज़ हो तो एक बच्चा जब स्कूल जाता है और वो ये पढ़ता है माइंडसेट की बात है देखिए ओवरऑल हमें इन चीज़ों में जब तक हम अवेयरनेस की बात करते हैं माइंडसेट की बात करते हैं हमारे यहाँ बहुत से ऐसे इशू है कि हम जब कल्चर हमारे यहाँ ख़वातीन का एक अलग ही उस पर वो देखा जाता है जब हम बात करते हैं किसी से तो हम कहते हैं जी इस्लाम ने तो ख़वातीन को ये राइट्स दिए हैं तो कहते हैं नहीं जी वो तो हमारे कल्चर में नहीं है अगर हम विरासत की बात करते हैं कि इस्लाम में है कहते इस्लाम में है लेकिन आपको पता है कि हमारे यहाँ रिवाज है कि जो बहन या जो बेटी हिस्सा लेती है तो उनके साथ तो फिर माँ बाप या भाई जो है वो रिश्ता नहीं रखते तो फिर हम कहते अच्छा फ़लाँ चीज़ जो है ये तो कल्चर में है कहते नहीं ये इस्लाम में नहीं है तो इस्लाम में और कल्चर में ख़वातीन को जिस तरीके से ये अनफॉर्चुनेटली हमारे यहाँ एक बहुत ज़्यादा वो है ख़वातीन के लिए और एक में और बात कि एज पार्लियामेंटेरियन जब हम असम्बली में बैठे होते हैं तो हम जब कानून साजी करते हैं तो कानून साजी बहुत ज़्यादा असम्बली में होती है अनफॉर्चुनेटली इम्प्लीमेंटेशन नहीं है लेकिन जब हम ख़वातीन के हवाले से बात आ जाती है चाइल्ड मैरिजेस की बात आती है तो सब ऐसे वो हो जाते हैं कि जैसे खुदा न खास्ता हम कौन सा कोई गुनाह कर बैठे हैं कि जी आप ये जी इस्लामिक काउंसिल ऑफ इस्लामिक आइडियोलॉजी को आपने आप इस काउंसिल ऑफ इस्लामिक आइडियोलॉजी को हर चीज़ आप नहीं बेचते लेकिन ख़वातीन से रिलेटेड इशू तो ये चीज़ जो है जो माइंड सेट है इसको चेंज करना और ये रियासत और हुकूमतों की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी बनती है कि हम जब इक्वालिटी की बात करते हैं बराबरी की बात करते हैं अक्सर हम बात करते हैं जी ख़वातीन फ़ला अगर MPA की बात आती है जी खातून ये रिज़र्व सीट ये ख़वातीन के साथ ज़रूर आपने ये चीज़ लगानी होती है हम कहते हैं बहैसियत इंसान अगर वो मुस्लिम है वो हिंदू है वो सिख है वो अफ़गानी है वो पाकिस्तानी है बहैसियत इंसान हमने देखना है और यही हमें हम जो इंटरनेशनल बात करते हैं कि सिग्नेटरी है पाकिस्तान है अफ़गानिस्तान है तो फिर हमें फ़ॉलो भी करना होगा सिर्फ हम कमिटमेंट की और सिग्नेटरी की हद तक ना रहें थैंक यू
Please. We have two interventions now, short ones from our panelists.
इन्होंने कहा कि एजुकेशन क्या माइंडसेट बदल सकती है हम अपने इर्द गिर्द बहुत सारे ऐसी मिसालें देखते हैं कि बहुत एजुकेशन बहुत ज़्यादा पढ़े लिखे हैं बाहर से पढ़ के डिग्रियां लेके आए हैं लेकिन फिर भी औरत को देखकर उनको कुछ होने लग जाता है तो यहाँ आके मैं थोड़ा सा हो जाती हूँ कि एजुकेशन ने इनको नहीं बदला तो फिर हमें कुछ और भी एजुकेशन के साथ साथ करना है
Thank you, Ms. Chairwoman. I think in parallel to the public awareness, to knowledge, to education, we have to also deconstruct the sources of such an ideology that ended up with such a stereotypes that our sister was talking about. It's important in a state of clashing with each other, we really need to engage with those who are using politically, socially and culturally such an ideology which has nothing to do with Islam. In our conversation, we continuously brought the name of Sharia, while the Sharia, if we mean fiqh and jurisprudence, it's open to thousands of types of interpretation. This fiqh is interpreting something in differently in Qatar to UAE, UAE to, I don't know, to Turkey. I think it's also important that we need to really go after the sources of this ideology, deconstruct them and challenge them, and there is where we are missing strong voices in a state of confronting them from a how should I say, from a state of being so liberal and Democrats. We need more our religious authorities among our female activists in our society to come up with alternative interpretations of Sharia and Islam and ideology that has been problematic for all of us. I think it's important to have this fight in parallel to each other. Thank you.
It's a little bit like the Catholic religion. There are no women priests. So it becomes problematic. And because I think we are going to be running out of time, with the indulgence of this audience, one more intervention, please. That voice from Kabul. Can we speak for one last time in this session? This will not be the last time we speak to her, but in this session with Mehbooba. Unmute. Yes.
From the voice from Kabul, is there any particular question that you want to ask? You want me to talk about it, or about this general question about the role of Sharia in Islam?
The role of Sharia. Do you think, sitting in Kabul right now, that you can, or women can, influence the Taliban and the interpretation, the particular interpretation of Sharia?
Well, at this point, the way I've seen things, and I'm looking at everything from a very a practical point of view, actually, what is doable, what is not. At this point, really talking with Taliban about Sharia is not a very good time. So we are just, I think they might open up a little bit, just might open up to talk to some of the women, because that's what I've been begging everybody, and I've been asking them for God knows how long, and we might get some audiences with the people in charge, from the Emirat to talk to us. So that might happen. It's just that talking about Sharia, it's very important, and we really have to. But the only thing is that because of the way things are, and because of the way everything is being implemented in Afghanistan, we cannot go right ahead and do that. So we have to kind of see when the situation is right, so we can just enter and do it. But at this first, before even entering into Sharia and laws and anything like that, what I really want them to do, which has nothing to do with the Sharia or this is the right of the woman in Islam, is for them to let us go to school. That's number one. The university to open, and the women that they've been working in the ministries in Afghanistan, for them to return to their jobs. So if not all of them, because some of them have left, whoever is there and wants to go, they should be able to go. And then, but the number one is the schools and the university that has to open. Because once that opens, that automatically will put the woman back into the picture, at least. We have to enter the picture first. And once we enter the picture, then we can start, talking about Sharia, about the law, about everything, how it's supposed to be happening. Because actually what it is happening right now, we have lost all of the institutions that step by step were there to support the woman, which was something that throughout all of these years, we worked very hard at it in Afghanistan, all of us women. We really worked very hard to put those institutions in place. And that was not only women that did it, there were some good men who did that too. So we have put those institutions in place. And now we want them to go back. For example, the Ministry of Women's Affairs. The Ministry of Women's Affairs, if it's not going to be going as a Ministry of Women's Affairs, at least should go as the Mirmono Tolana that it used to be once upon a time in the beginning. Maybe that will be a start, to do that. with the Human Rights Commission. Maybe we can start that as a, maybe not as something really very big, but at least, the Human Rights Commission, a small part of it has to be there for the human rights or whatever they want to call it. But at least that they will do the same thing. So what I'm saying, or the way I see things, is that we have to get into this whole thing in a kind of a slowly but surely. And even if we have to make some of these, what we used to have before, shrink it a little bit, name it something else, but we would like to have it at least. Because for us, the people, everybody that are living in Afghanistan, is becoming very hard. For example, one of the setups that existed in Afghanistan before was they had put the system for the women who were the abused women of Afghanistan, that they run away from their families. Okay, now these women are run away from their families because, in abuses with women in the family is not something that is going to disappear because Taliban are here. Or this is a problem that the world has. And the US has it, Russia has it, most probably China has it, the whole of Europe has it, the whole of Asia has it, all of the Islamic countries have it also. But each one of them, they kind of deal with it according to what they have in their hand. And we in Afghanistan, we were having a system put in place that was helping them. For example, the woman would be taken, for example, to either to the Human Rights Commission for their complaints, and then or to the Ministry of Women's Affairs, and then that would go to the Hausa, to the police area of each district, and then that will be over there, they would, or in the Ministry of Women's Affairs, they would write it and start a thing for them, a folder, a file for them, and then they would call, the shelters that existed in Afghanistan, that there were quite a few of them for these women, and they would call the shelters, and then people would go and pick them up from the shelters. So now, when something like that happens, so there is nothing put in place anymore to help those women. So what happens? Those women, they go directly to the prisons. But the strangest thing is that this thing about women going to prison existed before. Before we started bringing all of these changes, this women in before 2003, in 2004, they were going automatically to prison because the government was not ready or had any way of keeping these women safe, so they would send them to prison. But then with the safe houses and the shelters for the women, we started having, a possibility of keeping them safe. So these are, for example, these are the things, schools, things like this, that the women should be involved, and their faces should be shown in the society. The male should get used to seeing them, because, I don't think they have seen women in their villages, most probably they don't. So they are, for them to see the women actually being involved in there. They can see them on the streets, and they see them at the places of work or in the offices and everything. That makes all the difference. Slowly, we are going to be able to do that. So this is what I am, the way I see it, right now, but right now to go from get-go to start with the Sharia and the law is not going to be working. We have to see where exactly we are with them first, and then we can get on to that.
Thank you so much, Mahbooba. That I think is a great note to conclude on, which I think is a consensus both sides of the border. Education as the first way of changing the mindset. Second, women's mobility, so that women are not perceived as the other, which in both countries has been a huge challenge. And third, to make sure that women have the ability to support themselves, the right to work.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter, these three things combined are going to be essential for the survival of women. And I do think that we have these voices. If I wasn't an optimist before the session, I am now. So thank you very much to this distinguished panel and to the audience for a great session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been wonderful.